Alright, what's up? Welcome to How to Build Muscle 101, explaining you basically how to get stupid simple gains and kind of telling you only the important parts of going to the gym, your nutrition, and building muscle. So yeah, what will this video cover? How and why is muscle built, your training approach, your macronutrient intake. I'm gonna be going over if bulking is necessary or does cardio or cutting kill gains, and some overrated and underrated variables for building muscle. Okay, so I don't think it's too important to go all too deep into this, but how and why is muscle built? The reason for your muscles getting bigger and stronger is mechanical tension. It's the amount of weight that you have loaded on your muscles, and then you're doing controlled reps with that weight. It increases your time under tension, your TUT for that muscle. And the longer you have that time under tension with an adequate load, you eventually reach your maximum perception of effort, which is what drives you to fail. It is not at the end of a set that your muscle physically can't go anymore. It is just your brain reaching its max perception of effort. It can no longer tolerate such output and load on the muscle. And yeah, this all just comes down to the amount of mechanical tension that you have loaded onto your muscle. And this just signals your muscle to get stronger so that next time it's able to handle that mechanical tension easier. And no, it is not micro tears. It is not your muscles getting broken down, getting damaged, and then repairing itself and becoming bigger. Your muscles do get damaged when weightlifting. They do experience micro tears, but that is not what grows them. That is just part of the recovery process, the micro tears being repaired. But yes, the true driver for growth is just a lot of mechanical tension close to your max perception of effort, aka reaching failure on your lifts or close to failure. Okay, and then the optimal training approach, at least 2x frequency per muscle per week. What I mean with this is that you want at least 2 occasions throughout the week, 2 lifting sessions for each muscle, and this session needs to have a direct hit to that muscle. So I'm not saying if you're training, for example, back, that doesn't count towards your forearms or your biceps. Obviously, lifts for your back do still create a little bit of mechanical tension on those muscle groups, but not enough for your forearms, your biceps, etc. to actually reach failure or even anywhere close. So these don't count as direct sets to those muscles. So yeah, you want to train every muscle that you personally want to hit. You know, if you want to skip legs, for example, I really don't care. Don't train legs. Train all your upper body muscles at least twice a week. You should have adequate rest between training sessions. At least let your muscles rest for a day. And so theoretically, you could do a low volume full body day and rest, and then you can train 3 to 4 times a week. 3.5 times to be exact. But as I said, that is only if you do low enough volume. I would then really only recommend 1, 2, maybe 3 direct sets per muscle group. You really cannot do 5 sets on the bench with only 1 rest day in between forever. That's gonna catch up to you. Yeah, I would say if you're doing like 2 sets per muscle, somewhat close to failure, then you could basically train every other day. And yeah, 0 to 2 RIR. RIR just means reps in reserve. So 2 RIR would be 2 reps away from failure. I personally prefer training all the way to failure, but it definitely isn't necessary. 2 reps away from failure is also enough mechanical tension to stimulate muscle growth. It stimulates basically enough muscle growth as going to actual failure. Only thing that to me is hard with reps in reserve is sometimes you feel like you're close to failure, but you can pump out another 4 reps. So you thought you were 2 reps in reserve, but actually you were 4 reps in reserve. So I personally like to just eliminate that variable. But yes, do know going to failure is not necessary. You can leave 1, 2, maybe 3 reps in the tank and be completely fine and still get a ton of muscle growth. Next up, 2 to 3 minutes rest, please. I know it feels like your muscles are ready, but your heart rate is still elevated and your brain's perception of effort is still higher. You need to also just let your brain calm down before you get into your next set. It is better, in my opinion, to just do 2 sets with 3 minutes rest rather than 4 sets with, for example, 1 minute rest. You will be able to push your sets way harder with adequate rest. And yeah, depending on your frequency, I would set somewhere around 3 to 6 direct sets for each muscle. But as I said, this is depending on your frequency, your volume. If you train every other day, and I'm then assuming that it is full body every other day, I'm assuming you're not skipping legs, then obviously 6 direct sets would be way too much. And if you're training only 1x frequency, only full body 1 day per week, then maybe 6 might not even be enough. But I feel like most people sit around 3 to 4x frequency, maybe 2 upper days, maybe 2 lower days. I know some people will do 3 upper days, 1 lower day, or just 4 upper days. But basically just the higher frequency and the less rest that you have in between sessions for that muscle, the less sets that you want to do. Even one all-out hard set for a muscle group can be growth stimulating, so don't think that that isn't enough. If you are training certain muscle groups often, you really can get away with one all-out hard set. And then obviously you could also do a second, but a third, fourth, fifth, etc. really is not necessary. Will just create extra fatigue and really not lead to much extra muscle growth, if any. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is fun equals optimal. You want to just have fun. You need to have a training approach that you enjoy. You need to do exercises you enjoy, have a split that you enjoy. You need to not dread going to the gym, because if it's fun, you're more likely to just push yourself harder and continue to go consistently for a long time. Rather than if you hate your split, hate the exercises you're doing, you might not push yourself as hard on those exercises, you might skip certain days. So yeah, I will die on this hill. Fun equals optimal. Okay, then your macronutrient intake. Not going to overcomplicate this, just going to list the standards basically. So your protein intake, if you are at maintenance or in a bulk, should just be 1 gram per pound or 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight. Not the end of the world if you don't hit this every single day. Most people still build basically all of their muscle with a little bit lower than this. But I would recommend just aim for this target, and then you know you're getting all your gains from your proteins. If you're not progressing in the gym, it at least isn't your protein intake that's limiting you. If you're in a caloric deficit, you can up your protein a little bit, but it isn't necessary, to be honest. It's more just some anabolic insurance. So yeah, you can then go to 1.2 grams per pound or 2.4 grams per kilo of body weight. You basically take your maintenance on bulk protein intake, but then for your goal body weight. So let's say you're 250 pounds. You shouldn't be eating 250 grams of protein. Maybe your goal weight is 200 pounds. Then just aim for 200 grams of protein. Fats, 20 to 30% of your caloric intake, very simple. Let's say you're eating 3000 calories, then your fat should just be 600 to 900 calories. If you're eating 2000 calories, your fat should be, 400 to 600 calories. And if you are in a calorie deficit, you can opt towards the higher end of this range for hormonal health. And then carbs, just fill the rest of your calories with carbs. And something that you can do is prioritize carbs peri-workout. This means before, during, and after your workout. You know, you can have a little Gatorade during your workout, probably like 20 grams of carbs. For most people, isn't necessary, but if you're doing very long full body days, maybe you could utilize that. But yeah, just pre-workout, sufficient amount of carbs. In my opinion, it really doesn't matter that much how many carbs you have pre-workout. Just aim for somewhere around 50 to 100 grams, and that's more than enough. You definitely don't need more than 100 grams, and you can get away with less than 50 grams as long as your daily carb intake is okay. At least try to aim for a little bit of glucose and a little bit of fructose. You know, have some rice cakes with banana, have some cream of rice with banana. But yeah, as long as your total daily carb intake is adequate, then the carb timing really is not that important either. And yeah, it is recommended to have a high carb post-workout meal, but you definitely don't need to rush this like directly after your workout, slam down carbs. If you're not that hungry and would rather save your calories for later throughout the day, that's completely fine. Just be sure that from day to day you get enough carbs in your system to keep your muscle glycogen full. And if your muscle glycogen is full, your gym output will be the best it can be. So yeah, you really don't have to stress the exact timing, as long as at the end of the day, or at the end of 2 days or 3 days, it really isn't a 24-hour period. Just as long as in between your workouts you get enough carbs, you're completely fine. You just don't want your muscle glycogen to be empty. Also, one training session does not completely empty your muscle glycogen. I think on average it's like 30-40% maybe. But yeah, all around you just want to eat enough carbs to keep your muscle glycogen full. Minimize fats and fiber around 2 hours pre-workout. This is just because it slows down digestion. If you have a lot of fat or a lot of fiber with your pre-workout meal, it still won't even really be digested by the time you're in the gym. So you might have eaten a sufficient amount of carbs, but they're not doing anything because they're not in your system yet. And overall, just minimize alcohol. Alcohol is a macronutrient. It's the 4th macronutrient. Lots of people don't know this. But alcohol is muscle protein synthesis suppressing. So it actually somewhat blocks the stimulus, which is muscle protein synthesis to grow your muscle. And when you consume alcohol, I think muscle protein synthesis drops by like 25 to 35%. So yeah, that is a pretty significant hit. Okay, then next up, is bulking necessary? No. As you can see on this picture, 39 well-trained athletes eat a 500 calorie surplus or just at maintenance. As you can see, the lean mass gain is not that big of a difference, but the fat mass gain is insane. This is because to build muscle every single day, it's only like 30 to 50 calories. And you know where your body can get those calories from? Your stored body fat. As long as your macronutrient intake is on point, as long as you are getting enough carbs, enough proteins, within your caloric maintenance budget, you do not need to bulk. And if your body fat is over 20%, I would recommend you cut down. If your body fat is 14 to 20%, you can maintain or recomp. This is basically just eating at maintenance or in a very slight deficit and just build muscle and eventually look leaner. And if you're under around 14% body fat or even lower, especially if you're single digit body fat, I would recommend you do a bulk, put on a little bit of healthy fat. But yeah, food is not a growth stimulus, not even protein. Protein just allows your muscle to grow, but if you just eat protein without training, your muscles won't grow. Food on its own is not anabolic, but yeah, bulking not necessary as long as you have body fat that your body can utilize, which most people do. Most people aren't extremely shredded, most people are overweight. So yeah, if you look in the mirror right now and think I look healthy, or at least I'm not anorexic, then don't bulk, not necessary, won't give you much. So yeah, I would advise don't do this. Alright, then does cardio or cutting kill your gains? No, definitely not. As long as your protein is sufficient throughout the day, then cardio or cutting will not just eat away at your muscle. I would advise you to not do pre-lift cardio. You know, don't go for a run, don't go biking, don't go swimming right before you're hitting your gym session. Just because you're then already having used up most of your energy and you won't be able to stimulate your muscles as much during your workout session. So you won't get a big enough stimulus to grow or either to maintain your muscle. So yeah, in that scenario, it could kill your gains. But if you just do your cardio away from your workout or after your workout, and it's not interfering with your performance of your weightlifting, then you're completely fine. And same for cutting, you'll really be fine as long as you just lift hard, eat enough protein. And yeah, if you're in a very deep deficit, you might not really build any new muscle, but you can definitely hold on to all the muscle that you have. And yeah, definitely don't be afraid to do either of these. Cardio, very healthy, very good for you. Cutting, also very good if you're at a pretty high body fat. Okay, then quickly some overrated variables. Bulking, as I just said. Supplements, don't fall for the supplement trap. Only supplements really worth taking, in my opinion, are creatine, pre-workout, in which is caffeine. I would definitely recommend caffeine overall. Caffeine is very good, just not too much. And anything that you are truly deficient in, you can supplement, of course. But really, you don't need all of these pills that your favorite influencer is selling you. Excessive warm-ups and also drop sets, in my opinion, are overrated. You don't need to do like 3 sets to warm up. If your muscles are warm, you're good to go. Right now, I'm walking on this walking pad. I feel warm. I have my hoodie on. I'm physically warm. I could do a max effort bench set right now. Put me under the bench, load my usual weight that I do for reps, and I'll be completely fine. There's not really something magical about just doing a few reps with the lighter weight. It's just the fact that you're getting your body temperature warm, but if you are already warm, you can go all out. You really don't need to do many warm-up sets. You can do hard warm-up sets. You can actually do basically like, let's say you're bench pressing 80 kilos, whatever, for reps. Maybe rack 70 kilos and just do 1 rep. And that signals to your brain that, hey, we're about to push hard. We're about to really deliver here. That actually can help. No need to just load 40 kg and do 10, 20 reps, then load 50 kg or 60 kg and do a ton of reps. If you are already warm, that's mostly unnecessary. And drop sets, I mean, in my opinion, they just create extra fatigue. If you do a set, then do a drop set. Your next set, you won't be able to push as hard. I would say only do drop sets if they are the last set that you do for that muscle. But definitely, if you're doing, for example, 3 sets for a muscle, don't do drop sets every single set, and definitely not the first one. If you are doing them, I would recommend only doing them on the last set. Ultra clean form. Now, I do believe you should definitely use clean form overall, but there's not something magical to me in having a perfect form. It's very good to standardize your form so that you can measure progressive overload. Because, you know, if you do bicep curls, very clean form, you'll be able to get less reps than if you're ego lifting. But if you sometimes ego lift a little bit at your last few reps, I think you can get a little more mechanical tension than if you do ultra clean form. I have lifts where with really clean form, I can't go anymore. But if you just ego lift a little bit, get a little swinging going, whatever, I can get 1 or 2 more reps, and I feel like those 1 or 2 reps are still beneficial. So yeah, don't stress having the perfect form, but also don't have such bad form for every rep that you could injure yourself, or that you're doing weights that you really cannot handle, that your joints cannot handle especially. But yeah, a little cheating at the end of a set to get a little bit of extra mechanical tension, I really don't think it harms anyone. And then some underrated variables: sleep, sleep, sleep. Can't stress this enough. Get your sleep, get high quality sleep. Don't doom scroll right before going to bed. Don't chug down water right before you're going to sleep, so you have to wake up multiple times throughout the night to go pee. Sleep in a dark room, sleep in a somewhat cold room, because trust me, sleep is so important for so many reasons. So yeah, I'm not going to go deep into that because I feel like that's kind of outside of weightlifting, outside of building muscle. But yeah, make sure your sleep is on point. 7 to 9 hours of good sleep, not 8 hours of trash sleep. Not I laid in bed for 8 hours, but I barely slept. No, 7 to 9 hours of good sleep. Also, low cortisol, aka low stress. You want to generally be not stressed out. If you're always stressed, that will hurt your gym performance and also your sleep, which indirectly, or actually pretty directly, impacts your rate of muscle growth. So yeah, try to keep stress low and maybe indulge in activities that lower your stress. And your water intake, you want to drink an adequate amount of water. Underrated, don't forget to drink your water. I don't know how people go through their day and they just forget to drink water. Personally, to me, that doesn't exist. I wake up, one of the first things I do is drink water. Aim for like 3 to 4 liters a day. I think for most people that's enough. Also depends on how physically active you are. If you do a lot of cardio, a lot of weightlifting, you might need a little bit more. But yeah, definitely don't drink too little water. And yeah, that's basically it. In the end, the most important part is just lifting hard. You can do everything I covered in this video and still not build muscle if you're just not lifting hard enough. So yeah, go to the gym, kill it, and then just try to optimize most points that I mentioned in this video. You'll get jacked, okay? You'll get very strong. And remember, this isn't a sprint. It takes a very long time to build a substantial amount of muscle and strength. So just be patient with it. But week by week or month by month, you should see an increase in your reps with certain weights. You should see yourself going up in weight. So yeah, slowly progress, have fun, lift hard. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this video. So thank you for watching. Let me know if there's anything else I should cover. And lift hard.